and she's tough and she rides a motorcycle. And I was like, ooh, that's what I want to play. Because I don't know how to play like me, you know what I mean? Like a character of me that was, but yeah, all writers pull from what they know, right? And Darren lived we lived together in an apartment off a block off of UCLA where we went to school. And then I think he lived in another apartment building too. And I think he kind of combined those together.
Did you have another roommate, Meg Ryan, at one point, or is that a folklore?
Meg was a housemate for, yes, she was. So, well, I guess it was the end of the 80s, because we lived together, we rented a house, and then she went off and bought a house, and then I bought a house. So maybe 1990 or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah. And she's a good friend.
Such a Hollywood story.
Well, I mean, who are the roommates these days? I mean, you have to live with somebody.
And then everyone gets a show.
Who's your roommate?
I live all by myself, just me. I am single. I live between here and New York and the Hamptons,
Yes.
which makes me sound like a whole nother person.
Nice.
It sounds awful, but that is the
Do you
reality.
polo? Do you go to the polo games?
No, but you know what it is?
Matches?
I'm such a Gemini. Like we were kind of talking before, like I can like morph. And so it's like, I really have discovered this. Like, I don't know why I haven't. First of all, I need to be in LA for work. It's great. But like living in 3 different places and like really living is like, this is like the light has gone off for me. Like I should have done this years ago.
Really?
Like, yes, it's really just perfect for me.
That's so that you attributed that to, well, Gemini, but also your personality as well, probably.
My personality and like, yeah, it's just, it keeps every place like I don't need to move. It's like everything is finally just settled. And,
Yeah.
Someone's like, well, like today, like this week I had to be in LA. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get on an airplane with like a light little bag and fly. Before I would have been like, what do you mean I have to go to LA? When's that going to happen? Oh my God. And it's just,
Right.
it makes life easier.
Well, I asked because I had an apartment in New York. My career started pretty soon. I mean, I didn't even get to finish UCLA. I was young, I was still in college, and then I tried to go back and get my degree a couple times, and that didn't work because I was working. But I always thought I would go to New York and do New York, like as an actor. And anyway, so I got an apartment for about a year in New York, and I had a place in LA. And I found that unnerving. Like, whenever I was there, I wanted to be here. Whenever I'm here, I thought, what am I missing in New York? And I just was like, it was convenient because that's when I met my husband, my now husband, and I was shooting in North Carolina, One Tree Hill. And so they would fly me in and out of shooting One Tree Hill. And because I had my apartment in New York, they would just fly me into LaGuardia. And then I was seeing him, but then also it was just close and I could be on the East Coast and then they'd fly me right back. It was just more convenient, but I didn't keep it. It just felt I was split into, and I'm not a Gemini, I just was like, I want to be here. I'm getting into here. I'm going to go, if I'm in LA, I'm hiking, I'm going to the farmer's market. I'm like, whatever, doing my meditation, seeing my girlfriends, and then if I'm doing in New York, I'm doing something totally different. And I love them both. I love New York.
They're both good, right? Well, I mean, you have to have some Jo in you still, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of Jo, listen, I mean, she was kidnapped, she was tortured, she was held at gunpoint, she tried to kill someone, she did kill someone, she was on trial, she had a baby, the baby was kidnapped. Like she went through a lot. This was Melrose, but was there ever like a storyline where you're just like, no, this jumps the shark, it's too much even for Melrose?
So you put into context, we're all reading scripts like that. And, you'd get the next week's script. And yes, I would think, what? And then I also would think, oh, good, I get to do these scenes. Like they're so dramatic, like I was just, you get into the zone of doing that kind of drama stuff. So part of me would just be like, I'm going to go be kidnapped and then duct tape and thrown into a hole in the boat. And then the next episode, I'll get to like blow him away. And then like, oh, but I'm pregnant. Oh, and then I have a dramatic thing like escaping a cabin. And then, it's just like the acting part of me like was like, bring it on, you know? And then, but then of course I also was like, is this a little much? It was a lot to, you know, here in hindsight, I look back, I just go, wow, she attracted really shitty men. Like, why don't you just keep it with Jake and then just like stay the course with a good guy, you know?
Just stay the course. Did you learn anything from that just because it was your first TV gig?
Well, I learned a lot about shooting under a time pressure and learning those lines. And I know in the beginning, because I wasn't used to the schedule, TV shoots about 8 pages a day. So that's just a 8, 9, sometimes 10. Now that's more like I do when I go off and do a movie or something. But 8 was a lot. 8's a lot. 8 to 9, I think. Anyway, what it means is you don't like, you know, stay in your trailer and get into character and then like you'll, you know, and then there's time and then you're still waiting. No, it means like you change, you go do your new makeup, you change into your new thing, you make sure you know these lines and you get to set because they're going to block it, light it, and then go. And they're usually waiting for you. So it's so fast. So I got to see the craft from a different point of view. I got to see it as what's important here isn't necessarily what's important if you're doing a play or what you're doing in a film and a studio film versus an indie film. Like they all have different things you have to nail. And it's kind of like the center of what's going to make it successful. So that was speed. And I learned to like, and also with like moving around, you want to be natural with your movements, but you know, there's a frame, there's a close-up. Like, so on TV, they'll do like a wide shot and that's when you want to get your movement in, but you can't be moving around if they're like this, because you're just getting people like nauseous who are watching it and the camera guys are going crazy. So there are things that I learned from doing it, from doing that show for those many years, for sure. Just like there were things when I did my first indie film and my first studio film. Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever have, because like at its height, Melrose was, like you said, you guys were everywhere. I mean, you know, you go to these conventions. Yes, most people want to talk about Princess Vespa. I mean, you have a lot of different things that are so iconic to people. Like, do you have like just a crazy fan story? I mean, either scary or just over the top. I mean, like some fan has sent you. I once had someone say they sent this person like a live cat. Like it was just literally like, I'm gifting you a cat. And they're like, I don't really want a cat. I mean, this is a strange gift to get to someone. Like, do you just have like a crazy fan story from over the
Wow,
years?
I've never been sent a cat and I don't ever want to be sent a cat.
No thanks.
Anything live. I
I'm
don't like to be
neither.
sent anything, frankly. Like I liked the days where there was like you know, just some space. But what I love about the cons is that for that period of time, you're just talking to each other. You're talking to the fans. You get to interact. It's also fast. You know, I mean, but I tend to have time in between mines, and my lines aren't always like, you know, long. And like last time I did it, I was next to Joe Esposito, who's a friend, and like